Date with a Debut is a Words and Nerds and Breathe Art podcasts co-production recorded on a Wagnical country. And I pay my respects to all elders, past and present, and extend that to any First Nations people tuning in. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. On with the show.
For a romance to be a true romance, it needs a happily ever after. And I think in a world that has become increasingly dark around the edges, a happily ever after is a wonderful thing.
Welcome to Date with a Debut, a podcast about debut authors, their incredible books, and their journey to publication. If you are looking for a new author to discover or writing inspiration for your own story and you don't know where to start, this is the place to be. I'm Nick Wasiliev, author of When Men Cry and your host for today's show, and I'm delighted to welcome another debut author in today's episode. If you enjoy the show, or indeed any other shows on the Words and Nerds platform, jump online and give us a thumbs up, a 5-star review, wherever you are listening. Thank you for listening to us and for supporting the Australian book industry. You can also find any books mentioned in today's podcast down in the description. In today's episode, I'm joined by Amy Hutton, an award-winning television producer who's now writing contemporary romance. Her short story Love is the Icing and Hot Like Chocolate featured in the 2020 and 2021 Romance Writers of Australia Sweet Treat Anthologies. But we're here today to talk about her debut novel, Sit, Stay, Love, published by Simon & Schuster, which you can get a copy of right now down in the description. This is also a very special episode of Date with a Debut because there is another exciting book to talk about, which is coming off the back of this debut book, which is coming out soon, Love from Scratch, which you can also pre-order down in the description. I started off by asking Amy about her transition over to writing from television, and also why the world of romance novels and book talk romance is so hot right now. Amy, welcome to Date with a Debut.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I am so excited to talk about Sit, Stay, Love. But before we dive in, I also kind of wanted to ask you a little bit, in kind of, we've mentioned in the intro that you started in television before kind of going into writing contemporary romance. And I always personally, when the opportunity comes up in this show, I always find it fascinating when we have someone who has gone from one art form to another. Why was now that time to do it? I mean, obviously you've written short stories beforehand, but why did it suddenly draw you in like it did?
I think I got to a point in my career, which I was in quite a senior role in network television, and I got to a point in my career where it was, I make a decision, am I going to just do this forever now, or is there something else I can do? I didn't really want to go any higher up in what I was doing just because I know what came with that and I didn't want it. And writing was something that I was have always really been into and have sort of come and gone. And mostly it's gone when I've been just really busy with my work. And because it was a creative job, sometimes you're so fried and a lot of people at you all day that the last thing you want to do is come home and write. And I never wanted it to be a chore. And I sort of got to the place where it was in my head a lot that I would really like to give it a go. And I just knew that having a full-time job doing what I was doing and trying to write was just going to be very, very difficult. And so I decided to focus on the writing, and I went basically contract for a while, so just to kind of smooth the transition over. But yeah, it was time, I think, time for change and time to embrace something that I'd wanted to do for a long time. And you kind of get to a point where it's like, well, it's now or it's never. And so I just said it was now.
Absolutely. And hey, you went, what stories you came up with? We had Love is the Icing and Hot Like Chocolate short stories. And then of course we get here to your first debut. It's a bit of a different episode to a normal Date with a Debut because we also want to kind of touch on another book that you have coming out. It's like a book 2 debut sort of episode that we're doing. But before we kind of do that, there is one thing I do want to ask as well, which is, you know, Sit, Stay, Love, and I'm assuming this new book because it's set in the same universe as you alluded to. It really feels like it fits. It feels like it fits into that perfect world of book talk and romance talk. For people who are not familiar listening to this, go online, go onto TikTok. It's basically the new 21st century platform for recommending books. If your book has made it onto TikTok, you are effectively there. And I get the sense from this book that you kind of have an interest in that space and liked looking into that space. Why do you think that, the world of book talk and romance books in particular are so hot right now?
That is a great question. I do have an interest in that, and certainly as a TV producer, I produced in the social media space as well, because obviously if you're working on a major television brand, they exist in that space too. TikTok, I think romance. I think why that's popping so much now and has been for the last couple of years is the nature of the stories. For a romance to be a true romance, it needs a happily ever after. And I think in a world that has become increasingly dark around the edges, a happily ever after is a wonderful thing. And I think that TikTok has been embraced by younger people, younger reading audience, which has been, I think, is one of the best things, because you see a lot of younger people reading so much now. I mean, you see a lot of young women out there reading romance, and it's wonderful. I meet them. I did the Manly Writers Festival recently, and a couple of the books I sold were to quite young girls, and I just think that's fantastic. And I think Book Talk has just that idea of community and sharing and the excitement that people get when they find a story that really connects and they want to share that, and then someone else picks it up and someone else picks it up. I think it's that sense of community and excitement and that sense of joy that romance brings, and joy that books can bring, that has sort of made that space pop as it has.
Absolutely. I think it's such an interesting and exciting space. And it's when people say, oh, young people don't read these days. Oh, no, they absolutely do. When you go on to Book Talk and see that there's upwards of 100 billion videos focused on Book Talk, I think it's even more than that now. That tells you all you need to know. The passion for books is definitely there. We are at the part of the show where we dive headlong into Sit, Stay, Love. So this book has been out for a little while, so I'm assuming that you are well-versed in giving us your 1-minute pitch. So what is Sit,
1 minute?
Stay,
That's a long time.
Love? I know. What is Sit, Stay, Love about?
Sit, Stay, Love is a heartwarming, joyous, very fun rom-com set in a pet shelter. And it's about a young woman who is torn between the chaos of managing her pet shelter, her mother's expectations, who's not exactly happy with her career choice, and the lovely two men that are nipping at her heels. She has a wonderful relationship with a vet called Toby, and he's her best friend. They spend a lot of time together. He helps her with all the animals that she saves, and they're really in a groove, and they have been for a couple of years. And one night, out of the blue, stumbles into their life an up-and-coming movie star called Ethan James. And Ethan has a big problem. He has an immediate problem, which is why he's there. There's a stray dog in his backyard, and he doesn't know what to do about it. But he has an overall problem in that he's just passed in the movie that's going to change his career, and he has one issue with it, is that his co-star dog, and Ethan's afraid of dogs. So he asks Sarah if she can help him overcome that, learn to be around animals and dogs, and of course sparks fly, which makes Toby go, maybe my feelings for Sarah aren't quite as friendly on friend zone as I thought. So it's a very soft love triangle is how I describe it, because unlike, some love triangles you get into, the guys are both super solid choices and they're nice guys, and she has trouble choosing between them because they both genuinely care for her and care for what she wants, and they just both hope that what she wants is them individually.
I love it. And yay for the nice guys. We like nice guys. Yeah. Can we shout out nice guys are actually sexy. Nice guys are actually very sexy. It is true. There is nothing wrong
100% sexy.
Yeah. So as I say, what I love is, of course, there's very established tropes in the romance genre in this book. There's romantic interest. There's a whole lot of confusion. Very likable characters, nice guys, sweetie pies, a love triangle. And then I also love the fact that you then throw in puppies and a family of kittens, a horse, you've got some sheep, and that's even before we get to the men. And what I like is that there is the comforts of what makes the genre so enjoyable and fun and fuzzy and warm, and all of those beats that just play my heart like a fiddle. But then there is the new spin on it here with beautiful animals that I absolutely love, and that I think readers will really enjoy this book.
Animals, or dogs specifically, and cats. I've had cats as well. Actually, I've had everything. I had until recently yabbies. Which I highly recommend as a pet. If you're looking for an interesting pet, yabbies are fantastic. But I have a dog, and she's a rescue dog, and the dog before her was also a rescue dog. So I have a lot of interest in that space, and I have a lot of interest in animals in general. And I really wanted to sort of bring a story about rescue dogs and rescue animals, cats, that didn't just look at the humans in the story, but it also looked at them. And I wanted to ensure that animals that I introduced in the story had their happily ever afters as well as the human characters. So, and I mean, who doesn't love kittens and puppies and, cheeky dogs doing all the wrong things? The dogs are basically my dogs. So the lead dog, the Staffy mix, is my dog Buffy, who's outside the door, I think, at the moment. And there's another dog in there, a scruffy rough coat Jack Russell, who was the dog prior to Buffy, who I had for 16 years. So, they're animals that I know very well. But, it sounds like I'm raised by wolves or something, but I've been raised with dogs, we even bred dogs for a while, my family. We had Airedales and bred them. So it's something that I know a little bit about, and I'm quite passionate about. So, and it's, for me, I think it's really real world as well to include pets in stories, because so many people have them. And I'm always quite surprised when I read a book and there's no animals at all. I'm like, seriously? It's not even... And not that I need them, it's so real world to me.
I think pets are a key part of your own happy ever after in real life. I feel like they're more than I mean, like, how many times as a man, or indeed a lady, let someone down, but a puppy or a dog will give you that unconditional love. It is kind of somehow that after that we always don't recognize how good it is until it is gone. But I love that you kind of have all of these animals giving them their happy ever afters. Of course, it is framed around Rose's rescue that Sarah owns and manages, named after her grandmother. A fierce love of animals. She's making ends meet. Her mum, as you mentioned at the top, thinks she's struggling. How dare you, mum? Working with animals? How dare you? I'm sorry. I had to take issue with that. And then, of course, she's got Toby, and then throws things into a conundrum. She puts her in a conundrum. She can't decide what she wants. And just talk to me about Sarah, and also just putting together this. I like the term soft love triangle dynamic, because it unravels itself deliciously.
Well, for me, Sarah, I think she's super passionate, and she's stumbled into this career. It wasn't what she wanted to do, and until she found this, she didn't really know what she wanted to do. She'd gone to university. Her father's a journalist. She was looking at maybe doing writing. She's obviously a smart woman, which her mother is constantly sort of reinforcing. And that's about the only thing she positively reinforces. And Sarah then, she's really stumbles into this, but she was passionate about it. And when she starts to think about her childhood, she realizes that she's always probably been rescuing animals. And so it's something that she really throws herself into. But it's a lot of work, and she doesn't have the staff. And so even though she is very passionate about it, it's always a bit of a struggle, and it's always a little bit chaotic. But, that is her primary focus. And I think because that is her primary focus, all the other kind of things happening around her in her life kind of are a little, not that they're not as important, they are, but maybe they're not getting the attention that they should be getting. And so that causes her not to completely understand maybe the relationships that are brewing around her and how she is being perceived, because her focus is so very much about the rescue. And not to say that she's not a good daughter and a good friend, she certainly is, but she is very much about the animals. And the soft love triangle thing, I think for me, she's a smart woman, and as I said, she's very passionate. She's also very kind. She's a very, very kind person, and I think having her fall for someone that maybe she'd had issue with in the past. I mean, love triangles are often with an ex coming back in, or sometimes the guy is just not. He might be the great bad boy, but he's maybe not that great. And you often will have, she should definitely be with the other guy. Why is she even looking at him? And I didn't want her to come across as not being smart in that way, in that she would make a bad choice. And so for me, I wanted to, give her two really good choices, which of course is lucky Sarah, but that's like becomes a very difficult situation for her. But I didn't feel like she would ever go for someone that wasn't genuinely kind and good, because that's who she is and that's who she's used to in her life. So that's why I call it a soft love triangle, because I do think that often love triangles, you do read them and you think, well, I can see he's like super hot, but would she really, like, obviously he's not the one. And I don't feel like you get that sense. Certainly not immediately in Sit Stay Love. You'll probably end up sliding in the direction of one particular person. But one of the best things I've had in reader feedback is that the readers haven't been able to make a choice. And it's taken them maybe 3/4 of the book to really, make a choice. And they flip-flopped all the way through. And then they finally come down on the person that she probably ends up with anyway. But I really enjoyed that. So I guess I made the guys both okay. And you know what? Most people are okay. There's not many people have like arch villains in their life. So I think it's quite realistic to have a couple of pretty decent guys.
I'm very, very glad that we have two sweetie pies. We have two nice guys in this because, I mean, as you allude to, love triangles often have the bad boy. And often, certain female protagonists gravitate to them because there's something exciting about that. And there's a wow factor that just isn't the same as, nice, reliable bloke. But sometimes that can mean that your bad boy can be an absolute prick if you're reading them on the page. So to have two actually nice guys is just personally really, really refreshing. And I love these two love interests that you have assembled to make a poor little conundrum out of for Sarah. We've got Ethan, the very up-and-coming actor, successful actor. I love that you describe it as Hemsworth-like. That says everything. But he's got a dog phobia. And of course, as you mentioned, starring in a movie with a co-star dog. I just want to first of all shout out the scene with the German Shepherd. It was it was good fun. And then on the other side we have Toby. Again, we said it at the top of the podcast. I am self-confessed Team Toby. Few things are hotter than a man who looks after animals, but is also someone who is very patient with Sarah, who just gets her, which for me was just so nice to see on the page. Guys, I like guys that can be kind and sweet too. Contrast is very interesting, though. Tell me about these two characters and the twists and turns they cause our poor protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, Toby is really Sarah's rock. He came to her rescue when she found puppies that began this whole journey for her. He was the vet that she went to on that day when she found like a sack full of puppies while she was out on her run. And he was the person then who helped her when she decided that she was going to possibly start an animal rescue, became like her advisor, but also then became her best friend. He becomes her shoulder. She's his shoulder as well. I mean, obviously, as a vet, he has days that are not great. And Sarah's the person that he goes to. His family isn't in the same state. So he goes to Sarah and they become very, very close. And I think for Sarah, he's just the calm voice, the kind voice, the person that she can just flop about in front of. They watch really bad, well, not really bad, but they watch 80s action and 90s action primarily and eat too much junk food. And he's just this very solid guy. And, of course, he's a vet, so he's super smart and very kind. He is dedicated to his work. There's a really lovely scene in the book with a pug and an old woman that's a client of his. And I think it really shows that he has this very deep kindness in him. And, so that's Toby's just like this solid person in her life, the person she just feels is always going to be there. But he's just a friend, and they've never been anything more than that. And she says that she's never thought of him as anything more than that, but definitely, as she starts to assess her own feelings, she starts to realize that maybe there has always been something more between her and Toby that they just haven't acted on, and she's terrified to act on that because the last thing she ever wants to do is lose him in any form in her life.
Absolutely. And I love that you've kind of thrown in Ethan in here as kind of a very...
Yeah.
Like, essentially, I don't want to say it is pretty much the instigator of all of this chaos, but Ethan is a really kind soul. Obviously, very different environment as an up and coming actor, but also I love the vulnerability. I don't know what, I really gravitated towards the fact that Ethan genuinely struggles with this one thing that is a crux of Sarah's life: animals and dogs, especially. You definitely get the sparks flying as Ethan learns to be around animals, and as Ethan learns to get an understanding of dogs for this particular role that he's in. And of course, you see the sparks.
With Ethan, I think for me, you say I described him as Hemsworth-esque. I think that's just a really easy kind of visual cue for people to understand that he's a big guy, he's handsome, he's got blue eyes, he's got the kind of sort of scruffy hair and a little bit of chin scruff, and he is very much a movie star, and he's up and coming. I mean, at this point in his career, when we meet him, the movie that he's just been cast in is basically going to change his life. He's been doing genre movies with dragons, so wearing bear skins. So they actually, Toby and Sarah do actually know who he is because they have watched one of his movies, so they have a vague idea of who this guy is when he stumbles in the door. But Ethan, I think your initial thing with him is he's glossy, he's flirty, he's all dimples and bright smiles. But when you start to scratch down on the surface, you find that he has a lot of vulnerability, and he's actually super open. He in actual fact is probably more emotionally open than Toby is, and certainly is with Sarah, because Toby has closed off or hidden his feelings from Sarah about Sarah for so long. Whereas Ethan's very open about them from the get-go. And but he's also very open about his own vulnerabilities around dogs and, you know, even around issues around his family and how he is perceived as this kind of just a one glossy guy when really there's a whole lot more to him. Ethan, I adore. Look, I love both the guys. I have grown to love Ethan more, I think, over the last year. And I just love how honest he is, how open he is, and how he looks like one thing, but he's actually something totally different. And people, you know, kind of have this view of him just because of the way he looks. And that is something that he really struggles with, and that he's, you know, he's actually a much deeper human being than people give him any credit for. I think the thing with Ethan is that he doesn't like that people can't see who he really is, and that people see the, you know, the beauty and the flash and the smiles and the dimples, but they don't actually see this other side of him. And Sarah does see this other side of him. She's blinded a little bit by the flash and the dimples initially, but she does see this much deeper, softer, kind, and very vulnerable and open side of Ethan and the true person he is, not the movie star.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's the appeal of him, that there is layers to him. But also, you are absolutely right about him being very open with his emotions and very clear on them. As you know, and that is, again, the comparison again with Toby is very interesting, because obviously Toby has closed off a little bit due to that scenario, due to the relationship that he has with Sarah. We will not give away spoilers on the ending, because long and the short of it, Sarah does in fact make a choice. We're not going to say who it is, but I do want to quickly finish off by shouting out Sarah's mum, and no spoilers given the connection to Rose's rescue. But I just wanted to shout out that particular relationship as well. Just a really interesting relationship between Sarah and her mum.
I really love Sarah's mum.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, she can be a bit harsh on Sarah, but you can tell that she absolutely thinks the world of her daughter. She just, I guess, had a different vision for Sarah. And she doesn't quite understand why Sarah wants to struggle so much. And she can see that Sarah's struggling every day with this animal shelter, how much work it is, and that she's spending, you know, half her Sundays under a house, you know, getting kittens. And it's just this always this struggle for money the whole time. And Sarah has another job writing copy, so she's always sort of juggling the job that brings in a bit of money and trying to find donations and trying to keep the rescue afloat. And I think her mum just doesn't understand why she would choose something that's such a struggle, but she does really support her, and she is very proud of her, and she does sometimes say that, and they do have a very close relationship, but it's kind of a bit not combative, but there's definitely a bit of back and forth tension between them. But I think Sarah's mum's pretty great, and I love how much she loves cheese.
Yes. She does. It's again, I think it comes from that parent place of just wanting to have the absolute best for your child, and
yes.
Sometimes ignoring that your child is going to make their own way in the world, very much like you did. It's just, it comes from a place of love. You do get that, even though it is combative with how Sarah is. But it's such a great relationship that you portray on the page. Long and the short, everyone, absolutely go and buy Sit, Stay, Love. It is beautiful. We have a slightly different episode to Date with a Debut here. And that element that I kind of want to talk about is that there is another book coming in this universe of that we have here. And I was wondering if I can tell me about this book that has led on from this debut that you have crafted.
So the next book is called Love from Scratch, and it's in the same universe of Sit, Stay, Love, but not at the same time or anything like that. And it's just, as I said, I kind of fell for both the men when I was writing this book, but I felt like I really felt like I wanted to dig a little bit more into Ethan, because I felt like he was this sort of person that was possibly misunderstood. So Love from Scratch has him as the lead character, and it's a little bit more about his journey in movies, and just it just goes into him a little more. And of course, there's I don't want to say too much about it, but of course, there's animals involved, and in this case, there's a dog, obviously, but there's also a cat. And the cat is known to just be completely indifferent to everybody. It's just one of those cats that if it sits on your lap, you're like, okay, I can't move ever again until this cat moves, because I'm so honoured to have this cat sitting on my lap. He lives his life just in his own bubble, doing his own thing and gifting out tiny bits of affection when he feels like he wants to, but he falls head over heels in love with Ethan. And this cat has never loved anybody before. So it's a really fun story. There's a chef involved, so there's food, there's romance, obviously, and there's more movie stuff. And so it's just it's getting to know Ethan a little bit more outside of the Sit Stay Love story.
Absolutely. And of course, we will stay spoiler free. It is super exciting. I'm assuming there's going to be, it may be way too early to say if there'll be more after Love from Scratch. But, and of course,
there's one more.
There's another one. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh, how exciting.
And that'll be out next year. Yeah. Yeah. So that's already written. So it'll be out next year.
Oh, how exciting. All right, well, we will wait with absolute bated breath for that. And I'm so glad that we have a book from a debut, a book 2 from a debut. It's really exciting, Amy. And again, everyone, you should absolutely check out Sit, Stay, Love. It's the first in a trilogy, guys. Like, what more do you want? It's officially confirmed.
They're all very much standalone stories. Yes, I mean they're all interconnect in their characters, and with the theme of rescue animals in there somewhere.
We will now finish with a rapid fire question part of the podcast, where I basically throw a bunch of questions at you and you have to answer as quickly as possible. Are you ready, Amy?
Yes, I am ready. Oh my gosh, yes.
No, it's not that scary. There's no pressure. Well, first of all is about your books and book tastes. And the first question I want to ask is, what is your favorite book that you have read in the last 12 months?
In the last 12 months, gosh, I don't know if I've got a favourite book as such in the last 12 months, but I will say that probably Jodie McAllister's Marry Me, Juliet series, which has come out over a period of just over 12 months, I think, which is Can I Stay You for a Second? Here for the Right Reasons and Not Here to Make Friends. That is absolutely fantastic, and I love it. It's like set in a Bachelor style world, but during the pandemic, so they're all like trapped in the bubble, and all 3 books are from different point of views but all take place at the same time. I would love to have seen her whiteboard. Must have been quite spectacular. So that's probably like I was really hungry to get the next one. So I think when you read a book and then go, oh, I need the next one urgently, you know that it's really connected with you.
Oh, that's a great one. And I love that it's like a series as well. So there's multiples that you can dive into. It's not just one book experience. You can go for another one. What's your favorite debut novel that you've ever read?
I think that was a really tough ever. Oh my gosh, I don't know about ever, but I think that was a tough question in many ways, because sometimes I've read a story and I've gone, this is such a great debut, but then you find maybe that author has written stuff in another genre under a different name, and so it's sometimes hard to know. But I think I read last year, I read Emma of 83rd Street, which is by Audrey Bellazar and Emily Harding. They write together, and I think they're like started writing as just a thing during the pandemic, and they came up with Emma of 83rd Street. They've got another book coming out, I think, this year. And Emma of 83rd Street is basically a really fun retelling of Jane Austen's Emma, but set on 83rd Street, obviously, in current New York. So it's super fun, and I loved it. I really loved it. And as somebody who's quite a Jane Austen fan, I was, it just really made my heart happy to read it and recognise the characters, but know they're a bit different. And yeah, super fun. So, and that is definitely their debut, as far as I can find out through the research.
Retellings are so much fun. They really are. I do like, if a retelling does it right, there is few things more enjoyable, because then it's again that really enjoyable lovey-dovey stuff. And of course, Jane Austen, sign me up.
Yeah, well, their next one is based on Prejudice. So I'm like so there. I cannot wait for it. So I think that's just a super fun thing that they're doing, and I think it's also really interesting when two writers write together. I think that must be a really interesting process.
Yeah. Oh God. I remember a few years ago, back when I was working at Booktopia, where I got to chat with Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman about their Aurora series, and just hearing how they would kick things back and forth with each other. It would actually be really fun to collaborate with another writer. I think that'd be so fun to make us.
Yeah, I actually think it would be really fun as well. And I think if you find someone who is, has the same kind of vibe to their writing and wants the same kind of things out of story, then I think it would be probably quite magical.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite word?
Oh my gosh. Does it have to be clean?
No, of course you can.
Words a lot.
Oh, swear words are great. Yeah, you can drop a swear word here. I think Dani V will let. Yeah, we've sworn on this podcast before. It's fine. You go ahead.
Yeah, no, I won't drop it. I don't know. I like words that you can feel as you read them. Words kind of like sizzle, or something. When you read something, and words that you can actually get, they're not just a word, but you can actually feel them when you read them. You can actually feel heat in the word. And they're the kind of words that I really like in books. And sometimes I'm super surprised. I'm like, oh my gosh, that word, I haven't heard the word for ages. But yeah, I do. I like words that are evocative enough that they actually become more physical than just a mental picture.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Nothing like onomatopoeic sort of feel and vibe to the words. They're gorgeous. How many tattoos have you got, out of curiosity?
I could not even tell you. Maybe 60, 70.
Jesus Christ, that was not what I was expecting.
You're expecting one or two. No, I'm fairly heavily tattooed person. My arms are, they're all individual tattoos, so I don't have like sleeves or anything like that. So they're all little individual pieces. Some of them are bookish, some of them are fanish, some of them are travel tattoos. I have an R2-D2. I have Disney tattoos. I've got them on my legs. So quite a lot.
Dope. Love it.
They're everywhere.
Love it. In line with Sit, Stay, Love and this love triangle, do you have a favourite trope? I'm assuming it is love triangle, but I just still want to ask.
Well, no, I don't mind a love triangle, and I was quite surprised to find out that a lot of people aren't in love with love triangles, which I discovered when
Who says that?
I started.
No way.
People on Goodreads, but thankfully most people are like, I don't usually really like a love triangle, but I really like this one because the guys are good. I really love friends to lovers, and I really love enemies to lovers. As long as they're not like really, really, really angry, like I think maybe rivals to lovers is probably a better way of saying it. And I like the ones like the really kind of ones like, one bed and that kind of thing. They're always super fun. But I think probably probably friends to lovers and like rivals to lovers. So that you're going to get there in the end, but there's a little bit of angst about getting there, either because you're like, but I don't really like him, or because you're like, but if we do this, we might spoil everything. So I kind of like those kind of bouncing back and forth. And I think with friends to lovers is really fun because you often have like a beautiful history there. But then a meet cute is also really fun as well. So you don't get that with the friends to lovers.
No, you don't. Oh, love it. You live on Sydney's northern beaches. Please tell me Monica's doggy rescue was an influence on Rose's rescue.
Okay, so my dogs are Buffy, and she's obviously in Sit Stay Love, and she came from the Animal Welfare League, which was in Terry Hills at the time, but they've since moved out to Kings Creek. And Harry, who is also in the book, and Harry is a Jack Russell, he was from Monica's Doggy Rescue.
Oh, I love it. Well, I used to go walking. I used to go walking dogs up there. I used to work in Belrose. So Belrose, yeah, Belrose. Up there, and so whenever we'd go on lunch breaks, we'd go and walk the dogs. Because dogs need walking.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing was that when I lost Hager, like I said, he was like 16. He had diabetes, so it was like got a bit rough at the end there. But I wasn't intending to adopt another dog for a while, but I decided to walk dogs for Monica's just to kind of give me the hit. And then my mum randomly sponsored a dog at an event she went to that was at the Animal Welfare League. And so when I was going up to Monica's to talk about walking dogs, I swung past there to meet the dog that Mum had sponsored and took her home, and that's Buffy. So it was just this kind of weird events of heading to Monica's to walk dogs and ended up stopping by the Animal Welfare League and accidentally adopting dogs. So here's Buffy in the book. Staffy Mix.
Love it. Yeah, well, can't go wrong with a Staffy. You absolutely cannot. Out of curiosity, she is. So you have mentioned that you are a massive fan of Disneyland's.
Yes.
In which Disneyland in all the world is your favourite, or which one would you like to go to the most?
Okay, so I haven't been to I was supposed to go to the European Disneyland, Euro Disney in 2020, and, things happened, and so that got cancelled. And I haven't been to any of the Asian ones. So I've just been to Anaheim and Disney World. And I'm always going to gravitate towards the original Disneyland in Anaheim, just because it is the original Disneyland and it's just got a great vibe about it. I'm going in September. I absolutely love it there. I know it like the back of my hand, and it's just you walk through the gate and it's just, I just love Disneyland.
Love it. My partner has gone to multiple Disneylands. I've only been to Euro Disney, but in August we're going to Disney Sea in Japan, which should be amazing.
It's totally amazing. I've got friends who have been to the Hong Kong Disney, and they do say that they're absolutely amazing. And I would 100% love to go to them, and that is definitely something that I'd plan to do. But at the moment, with two Disneys that I've been to, Anaheim is definitely always going to be my pick, and just the Disneyland park. It's just it's just beautiful.
Love it. And as a last question, and this is a cruel, mean, horrible, nasty question. Your house is on fire and you can only grab one Disney movie to save. Which one do you grab?
No, that's impossible. Oh no, that's if you could. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. I don't know. Maybe. I think probably Aladdin. Maybe.
Oh yeah, Aladdin's great.
Yeah, I really have a great Aladdin tattoo. Yeah, maybe Aladdin. I do love that movie. I like the live action one as well, but the animated, I'd go for the animation.
Yeah,
maybe. Let's go with I think that can I grab a box set or something instead?
Well, I mean, like, I think the answer, if we was a box set, we'd just grab the Renaissance movies. That would be my go-to.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe the older I'm getting, the more I'm gravitating towards it. But Hunchback was weirdly always my favorite of those movies. That would be the movie I'd grab. And I think the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, I made a really good pick. Maybe it's just because Frollo, like, you just see more and more Frollos in the world, so you're just
And I do think that's really interesting because I have felt that as well as I've kind of gone back and watched ones that maybe didn't hit with me initially. I kind of connect with them a lot more now. So yeah, some of like the animations that maybe weren't like really big, I kind of have connected with. I tell you what, but recently though, I think Encanto was probably the one that I loved the most.
That's gorgeous. Yeah, Encanto was so much fun. You cannot go wrong with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I mean, like, perfect.
You can't. And I do actually have to give a call out to my guy Stitch because I am like an absolute Stitch fanatic. I love him. I collect him. I've got loads of Stitches. I've got Stitch tattoo. He's wonderful too. So maybe I'd say Stitch.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Thank you so much, Amy. This has been so much fun. For all of our listeners, grab yourself a copy of Sit Stay Love or additionally Love from Scratch right now, wherever you get your books. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Date with a Debut and for listening to the Words and Nerds channel. You can buy all books mentioned in today's episode down in the description box, and if you enjoyed the show or indeed any episode of Words and Nerds, drop us a review, leave us 5 stars or a thumbs up. It is hugely appreciated. Catch you soon.